Welcome, everyone. I'll introduce you all again to the Sutherland Institute Congressional Series. We're very grateful to the Hinckley Institute of Politics here at the University of Utah for this wonderful venue and the great partnership this event series has become. We're also grateful to Zions Bank for sponsoring this, making these kinds of conversations possible. And of course, grateful to Congressman Burgess Owens for being here, sharing his time, and grateful to his team for helping this to come to pass. I'm Nick Dunn with Sutherland Institute, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all. I want to mention briefly, for those of you who may not know, Sutherland Institute, we're a 501c3 nonprofit policy organization. The reason we exist is to equip voters and policymakers to advance public policy that's grounded in the values of our Constitution and America's founding ideals. And the Congressional Series is kind of an extension of that effort to have important conversations about timely topics and matters of public policy to give future American leaders, which is all of you here in the room and watching online, opportunities to hear about these important topics. So we're very grateful to all of you for being here. Today's format, Jason Perry with the Hinckley Institute will be moderating the discussion with Congressman Owens. Derek Monson from Sutherland Institute will ask a couple additional questions before we close the live stream portion and go to audience Q&A. So to continue the introduction, I'll hand it over to Rory, who is a student here at the University of Utah.
Thank you, Nick. Welcome back to campus. We are very excited to have you here at today's forum. My name is Rory Stewart. I'm a forum host here at the Hinckley Institute. The Hinckley Institute of Politics is a nonpartisan institute at the University of Utah. Hinckley provides an array of transformative experiences for students through internships, forums, and classes. Hinckley forums seek to foster public discourse and civil debate on the most current and pressing issues, bringing in local, national, and international thought leaders. We want to thank the Sutherland Institute for their partnership, as well as Amaya Moeller and Spencer Williams for their leadership in organizing this event. We are thrilled to welcome Congressman Burgess Owens to campus today. Following a storied career that included 10 seasons in the NFL, Congressman Owens transitioned into politics and public service. He founded Second Chance for Youth, a nonprofit dedicated to helping troubled and incarcerated youth, and in 2021 became a U.S. representative for Utah's 4th Congressional District, where he emphasizes his 4 guiding principles of faith, family, free markets, and education. I will now turn it over to Jason Perry, Director of the Hinckley Institute of Politics, to get started in today's conversation. But first, join me in welcoming the Congressman.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Rory. So glad to have you all here with us today, the students. First week of class, so far so good? All right, you can't be more than 4 days behind, so it's a good start. So glad to have you with us, Congressman. If you don't mind, I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to know you a little bit. I've had a chance over many years to get to know you well. A couple of things from the intro that Rory just gave us too that I just want to dive into just a little bit so we get to know you. We just talked 10 years in the NFL, including a Super Bowl. I saw the ring.
Yep.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Back when Raiders used to win football games, a long time ago.
Oh yeah, back.
A long time ago.
I'm kind of curious as we get to know you a little bit about that experience and how maybe being a professional football player prepared you for the ultimate sport, politics.
That's actually a great way to start, because I guess what I can highlight with my experience with football is that every one of us have talents in this room. And once you find out what that is, and you can dive in deeply and find out that's where your real confidence comes from. And there's certain things that I learned through the process of playing football, and this is life, by the way. We cannot control the scoreboard, but we can control the hustle. So if you can decide that that's the one thing you will end up doing, you will succeed in lifetime. And I'll say this, for you young people here, this is the best time in the history of mankind to be here in this country, in this particular institution, with the opportunities you guys can have in the near future. Education is my wheelhouse. It's something I love. My dad was an educator for 40 years at Florida A&M. So I would run up to the campus to work out. I would work in his laboratory. So I understand one thing about education. This is your gateway. This is how we hold on to not only to our culture, but this is where your future lies. If it is your goal to fulfill your dreams, it's going to come down to education, hard work, and then being able to give back a service that people appreciate. So that's really what the bottom line is. And you know, here's the good thing about, and what I love about this forum. By the way, I want to thank Hinckley and also the Sutherland for putting this together. At the end of the day, it comes down to we have to have conversations to be able to think outside the box. This is what I learned from my dad, by the way. My dad's greatest, I think, he's more proud of me being able to have a conversation with him where we might disagree, but I brought with my process some thoughts, some facts. He was more proud of that than just me getting along and agreeing with everything he had to say. That's what we have to do as a country. We have to always remember that as we have our differences, as we have our different perspectives, is we have the same end game, which is to make sure that we're succeeding in this country, that we're giving a big legacy, we'll always come up with the best solution. That's just the way we work. That's the way we've always been as a country. So I just want to say that, and thank you guys for being here. It says a lot that you're taking your time out to listen in a little bit to conversation. So I just want to say that for sure.
That's good. What's the greatest advice you ever got from a coach?
I would say that the one I just gave a minute ago about hustle.
I wondered about that. It sounded like a coach thing.
Yeah, and I'll say this, when I was your age, I would never do what I'm doing right now. I was very, very shy, very much an introvert. Matter of fact, there's an NFL card I have when I was with the Raiders, and it says on the back, Burgess Owens read books on road trips. Now, I read books not because I was trying to get as much knowledge, it's a way not to have to talk to people. If I'm reading a book, even when I'm getting my ankles taped and I have to figure out what to say next. My point is this, how can I now sit before you here is that we're taught to run, we run toward your fear. Run toward those things that you feel a little bit anxious about, that you don't feel comfortable with. And if that becomes muscle memory, guess what? You're going to find your better self in that process. So right here, I'm talking with you guys right now today because I had many days of sitting down, looking at notes, reading word by word, shaking, and finally getting through it and saying, hey, I can maybe do it up with notes. Let me try that one. And so just know that in you is remarkable potential. Don't let anyone ever tell you there's not. That's our biggest fight, by the way. We have a culture that wants to tell you you're limited based on whatever it might be, your color, your race, your zip code. Do not believe that. You have particular talents within you that's going to be a blessing to so many other people if you're just willing to run toward the uncomfortable process to get you there. So just know that, and make it your legacy when you look back on life that you say, you know what, I put everything I could on that effort. I left everything on the field. I didn't hold back. I became the best I could be, and then that should be your legacy when it's all said and done.
Was this what the heart was of the second chance for youth? Because that sounds like a little bit about what you're doing. You've always been a mentor, but maybe talk about that idea of the potential of these students and why you started that program.
Again, I was very blessed to grow up in the Deep South in the 60s. And I say blessed because even though we were going through a very different time in our country's history, segregation, KKK, Jim Crow laws, my first exposure to white Americans wasn't until I was 16 years old. But let me tell you about that community I grew up in. The community I grew up in was very similar to every other community at that time across our country. We were not assimilating, but our dads had come back from World War II. They were proud of what they accomplished. They saw worth in what they had done. And they figured out if we're going to get respect, it's not by begging for it, it's not by asking for it, we're going to command respect. We're going to work really, really hard. We're going to make sure anybody sees our efforts cannot have to come away with respecting that effort. So I came over time. I always like to say this to every audience I talk with. So if you heard this before, bear with me. If you haven't, make sure you listen to this and put it into your thinking going forward. Because my community, segregated community, was segregated, we had to decide within how we were going to handle those tenets of faith, family, free market education. That was our tenets to make sure that we were going to get respect. Because we believed in working hard, because we believed in merit, because my parents' generation wanted to make sure that their kids grew up believing in their community and having commanding respect on their own. It was a community from the 40s to the 70s. I want you guys to hear this. Led our country in the growth of the middle class. The black community led our country, men matriculating from college. These HBCUs, we would have young men going in there and they'll leave there with degrees and we'd go out in their community to make things happen. We led our country in the percentage of entrepreneurs. You imagine an environment that's segregated. We didn't leave our community to go out and buy stuff. We did everything within. So Baker's Pharmacy, Speed's Grocery Store, Perkins Service Station, a hospital of black doctors and black nurses. And guess what I saw as a young man? I saw success everywhere. I saw what it took to succeed by working hard, by being honest, by giving back. Because my community, they did that. They had that culture that they want to make sure they gained respect. And that, by the way, that wasn't just Tallahassee. That was across the country. I had relatives in Texas and California and Washington, D.C. It was always the same. Most had already gotten to the middle class or they're getting to the middle class. So I'm saying that because in that environment, the one thing I learned from my dad in that environment was we need to give back. The one thing about getting to the middle class, for those who've gotten there, particularly for the first time, there's this appreciation. It's this idea of, my goodness, if I can do it, you can do it. I need to make sure my race comes along with me. So that community, that era, did more of reaching back to help others to come with me, with them. And I just watched my dad and realized, you know what, I kind of like that. So by the time I got to the NFL, I realized that we were losing our kids. Our kids were, particularly our black men, falling behind. The idea of respect, the idea of business ownership, education, we began to linger behind. So my thought was, when I left the NFL, to build a business, and that business will give me the revenue, the network, the respect that I can go out and help others to come with us. The upside of leaving what I did and starting a business is that business failed. Greatest thing that ever could have happened. And by the way, failure is part of the process. That business failing allowed me, first I had to start all over again, leaving this beautiful home in Long Island to a one-bedroom apartment, 4 kids, doing a day working as a chimney sweep, at a night working security guard. Now, was it fun? Absolutely not. It was disappointing. I was ashamed because, my goodness, here I came out from NFL to now go to failing a business. But in that process, what I did is I learned that if you do the right thing, if you work hard enough, that you can overcome any failure. And guess what I can tell now, folks like yourself, and I've had these opportunities where I've talked with college kids, and I remember somebody said, yeah, you can say that because, you played NFL. I said, yeah, I played NFL, but guess what? After that, I was a chimney sweep and security guard. If I can do it, you can do it. See, so no matter what we go through, and I would say this, please be willing to share your failure. Please be willing to share your downtime, as long as you're coming back. I mean, don't share it if you're complaining. Please don't do it. That's not the time to share it. But once you come back, you need to let people know, this, guys, I know what it is. I can make this happen. Now, because of that experience, eventually I got to Utah. That dream of mine to help kids was 40 years ago. Came to Utah and they said, this is a place, if you want to do something with kids, this is the place to do it. I mean, we're into our kids here. We don't mind volunteer, we don't mind giving. So I decided this is the place to start this nonprofit. And 3 years into the nonprofit, I realized if we don't change things in DC, our kids don't have a chance. If we cannot read, cannot write, cannot think, cannot appreciate, cannot see that there's a plan and action with our efforts, it's not going to get any better, it's going to get worse. So I decided maybe going back to DC, a place we could make some difference, some things happen. And I'm so thankful that I'm there now. I'm on education. I'm the vice chair of Education and Workforce Committee. I'm a subcommittee chair of higher education. Education is my wheelhouse. It's my pure love. And my team has bought onto that. So the things we're going to be known for as a legacy is what we did with education. And here in Utah, my friends, we have what it takes to be the great example for the rest of the country. We collaborate. We want our kids to stay close. We want our kids to be successful. We want them to leave this education and go into work and join the middle class. We do that better than any other state. So I'm thankful that I'm actually here in Utah as I talk to different aspects of our education institutions and then bring that together to say we can do this for the rest of the country, we can emulate this. So that was kind of how that nonprofit, the genesis of that, and where now I'm actually across the country, things we're doing with our kids is across the country now. It's not just Utah. The things we're doing can really have a big impact everywhere.
Can we stay on education for a moment? Because it is your wheelhouse. It's also one of your key committees. We've talked about this numerous times. The students here today, some of them are studying for jobs that don't even exist yet. we don't even know what's coming. But this is something you've thought about, and you've been working on some initiatives, some ideas of what Congress can do. As recently as this week, some things you're talking about. Why don't you give us some preview about what you're working on, because you've been touching some of the aspects surrounding higher education recently.
Yes. There's a couple things, and we were talking about this a minute ago, Jason. What education's been missing out on for decades is innovation. That iPhone that I can pull out right now, this it was back in who was it? Who was the anyway that era of that first phone call, Hello Watson. That has changed dramatically over the last 100+ years. Our education has not. Education is still back in that same era. So what we have to do is make sure we're bringing to the plate the greatest innovation. We now have AI. We have, I was talking to Jason earlier about something called LERs, Learning Employment Records. What would it be like as you continue to do what you're doing right now and know there's a digital record that everything that your skill set, your passions, your whatever it is that you have accumulated over time could be on this little digital record. And that digital record would be literally sent out to anywhere across the country for the industries that's interoperable, so any industry can see it and read it. And at the same time, you can be getting feedback from industries about things you might want to get done. Our goal is to make sure that as you come out, it's not about the degree, it's about your work skills. It's about getting a job. In some cases, it could be going to 4 to 6 year colleges, or in some cases, it could be coming out of high school and going right into the workplace. Whatever your personality is should be addressed with the way we educate. So we're doing that. Of course, there's something else called the open door. Mm-hmm. It's open door. Utah has been very innovative in terms of how we invite people to come in that are trying to get an opportunity to move forward. And while they're in that environment, it's give them so many options. Would be opportunities for a job. Would be temporary support because they might be going through some downtime. It might be education. It's called the One Door Act. We did that a long time ago. It's been working very well. Guess what? The rest of the country could not even replicate or emulate until we passed the law in D.C. So we have this remarkable system that's working, but we had to go to Congress to make sure that every other state can use it if they want to use it. So those are the kind of things we want to make sure that we're making it easier for states to look at how they can support their students, their kids, their workforce, and not have the rules and regulations that sometimes are very onerous that might slow them down.
How is this learning education record, which is something you're working so hard on, how is this going to work? So, okay. and as I understand it, it's from your certificates, your trade, whatever the skill is, all the way up to college. This is something, we talked about how that works. It's very innovative.
This is something I'm very, very excited about. Now, how many of you guys know when I say Nick Saban? Nick Saban. Okay, I see a couple of ladies. A couple of ladies say, what are you talking about? No, Nick Saban was one of the best college coaches. He coached for University of Alabama. We met with him the first year I got to Congress. He was coming to talk about the college issues, but he gave us an analogy that to me highlighted what we need to be doing with our workforce. He says, we can identify a young man in 7th grade. By the time he gets to 11th grade, we can offer him a scholarship. Now, why is that? Because that young man knows that Alabama can give him his dream. It might be the culture, it might be the color, it might be the fact that it might be a way to get to the NFL. Meanwhile, Alabama has recognized this young man. He knows their skill set, potential. They want to make sure they get everything they can to him, so he's prepared to truly succeed at Alabama. So by the time they get to 11th grade, because everybody's been working together, collaborating, talking, and striving to make sure that there's a win-win, 11th grade, they can offer the scholarship. This is the way we should be approaching our workforce. Kids as young as 6th, 7th grade should be able to start seeing what is their passion, what are their interests, what could be something they could enjoy doing long-term or maybe right out of college. And if we start to do that, what the parents should also be aware of it. So there's a self-discipline from the young man, there's an interest from that industry, in this case, to the college, to make sure he's getting everything he needs to know to stay on pace. So that's the concept behind the learning employment record. It's something that you will own. It's your personal record. You have security, total security with it, and you can share with anybody you want to. But on that, you'll have everything you've done, your skill set, your certification, your degrees, and your work skills, your work ethic, things that you could, there's certain things you can be able to do that's not going to be a degree. It's just being at a job for 15, 20 years and being an expert at it. You don't need a degree to go out and do that someplace else and take that experience with you and make money with it. So we're looking at opening this up in a big, big way so that there's really no excuse. Even if you live in a bad zip code, you can still have a digital record. You can still get your skill sets in place. And you can still connect with people outside of that environment to make good things happen. So it's very innovative. I'll say this. I am so proud of our business sector because this is something that came up about 4 years ago, the Trump era, this LER concept. The last 4 years, it just died out. As a matter of fact, the stakeholders kind of went in their own different directions. But because we've had people who are visionaries, those who want to truly make business work, they want opportunities for our kids, they held on to it. They did it in their own little areas, and now here we are again, we're coming together again. So this concept, this brief, I was just telling Jason, I just got the brief last night. It's exciting what this concept is, and they have a timeline. This time next year, it's going to be rolling out with the first phase of it. So you will have, coming down the pike, you're going to have more opportunities, more gateways open to you. If I can do this also, you hear the word interoperability. Let me explain what that means in a way that I think you'll see it. The interstate highway, let's say you have interstate highway going from the East Coast to the West Coast. And every state it goes through, there's an on-ramp, because every state has data they've been collecting. They call it P20. There's particular state data. Now, because we have this interstate, now in the past, this data could not be shared because every state is doing their own thing. They're in a silo. But because this interstate has been developed, there's an on-ramp for every single state to come onto that interstate. They can come on, they can come off, so that data that's being brought together is now being able to be shared. We can now share it. It's portable, it's personal. It's data now that can be used for you as opposed to just the state or the federal government using it as a big aggregate. So it is very, very exciting. We look at it, by the way, we look at it as a public-private partnership. Now, the private is innovation. That's what they do best. Public, we don't do very well in DC with innovation, but we can incentivize. So we can incentivize businesses to be part of this process, that there's some maybe tax credit or something that they can benefit from that process. It's a win-win. At the end of the day, what's going to happen is you will have opportunities that generations before you have never had even an idea about. You're going to be able to use data in a way that's very personal. When you bring AI into it, you're going to be able to figure out what your passions are, what you're truly happy with. I mean, all the things that really make you who you are. This is what this LER record process will be about. So just get ready. Can I also say this why I'm so excited about this phase in our history, in our education? The thing that I truly learned out of athletics, and anybody in here who's actually worked hard at anything that you're trying to get done, is called merit. Merit is that desire to become better tomorrow, better than we were today. Merit is that concept is, if I'm the best person, I've worked the hardest, somebody's going to see it, and I'll be chosen for that opportunity. You apply grit and merit to your work from this point moving forward, it will be rewarded. Because we're going to have a system now that can see it and understand it and say, you need to be with us, and we will pay you to be with us. And all of a sudden, that connection will be something you're going to be excited about, but also the employer that you're working with and working for will also appreciate it. So.
Thanks. You brought up sports a little bit there again, because this is something interesting in Congress that does touch higher education. Can we talk about NIL for just a moment? You introduced, the full name is the Protecting Students, Athletes, Economic Freedom Act of 2025. NIL has changed almost everything about college sports. You have this unique position, being a member of Congress and an athlete too. It gives you a perspective that very few have there in Congress. Talk about your act right there and where you see this going nationally.
We're at a very interesting crossroad. Athletics has been a real foundation for our country. I would say the two things that's really made us the great country we've been part of, and I watched it and I was part of it, is you bring military and you bring athletics into it. Because guess what happens with both of them? It's based on merit. You can work out with people, you can thrive with people, and at some point you don't care about anything but what they bring to the plate, what they put on the field. You can high five with people you've never known before, from backgrounds you've never been exposed before, but because you're winning, it all works out. So the merit piece has to be there. What I'm concerned about with this NIL stuff is if we're not careful, we're going to produce a generation of very self-centered, narcissistic young men. You put $1 million, $2 million every 6 months into some of these young guys at the age of 18, 19, they have no idea what character's about. They're not learning it. They don't have any idea what it is to be committed to a team, loyalty. The things that make us who we are, is based on how we act when times get tough. Do we stay loyal? Do we stay committed? Do we stay respectful? We have an opportunity, right? We have an environment now, if a coach says something tough or bad, mean to the young man who might need it, he's going to go to the portal and get out of there. So we have to make sure we bring this back together. It's what is it, the cat's out of the bag? That's not the right term. The genie's out of the bottle, whatever it is. I don't know how we can bring it all back together, but we have to put parameters around this so there's decisions being made that you have a college that can depend on certain things happening for amount of time, and we have to figure, and a young man also, and young women have an opportunity to pursue their value, but not in a way that's going to destroy the industry. It's destroy the culture, make it so we don't even want to go to games anymore because guys are just turning into knuckleheads, and that's what's happening, by the way. Okay, so that's one piece of it. The other part of it is the last thing we need to do is allow college athletes to become employees. We cannot do that. College is about that era in which you're still a student. That should be always the first thing. And once you start getting into employment, then you talk about unions. And then you talk about unions, talk about all the other things that go along with it. So we have to keep this sport as what it is, amateur. Allow young people to come in and do their best. And by the way, protect those sports that you might not even know about. You know, one of the sports that I think is probably most influential character-building sports that you probably have no idea, might not have even watched it before? It's called wrestling. You talk about grit, character, you actually being part of a team, but yet you still have to stand in as an individual part of that team. And I don't care what your size, what your age, you can learn something from that sport that will take you out and become a much better person when you leave it. Now, that sport might not last if we keep it up the way we're going right now, because the smaller sports, the ones that don't bring the revenue, might disappear. And there's some athletes that will never go pro. They need to be able to bring their character out by competing in a very, very tough way. So those are things we're kind of working through right now. We're going to navigate this. I think we're going to end up landing in a good spot. We just have to figure out how it works out. But we want to make sure that the things that you guys appreciate, going to a good game, having your colors on, and just be excited about your team winning, can last. We don't want you guys to lose that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that. Are you okay if we do some questions?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. I have a few more just in case, if you don't mind. But Derek Monson is going to start us off with some questions from the Sutherland Institute. And then for our students, we'd love to have a couple questions from you after Derek.
Thank you, Congressman Owens, for being here. For the live stream audience, I'm Derek Monson with Sutherland Institute. Can I have just a two-part question before we go to the students, which have some great questions, I'm sure. You mentioned AI in education, and that's kind of a topic that's everywhere right now, you know, not just in education. So I'm curious what your thoughts are as we see the potential for AI to personalize education in the K-12 space, improve some things in higher ed. But the concerns that exist on the other side, all of that happening in this context of this global race to be the country that is, you know, wins the AI race, whether it's the United States or China. So I'd love to know your thoughts and comments on that. And then second part is to do with higher education and accreditation in higher education.
Okay.
You've sponsored some legislation on that. I'm curious what your thoughts are on what Congress should be doing there, and is there a bigger role that states can play in that accreditation process?
Okay. Let's start with the first one. and that's AI. I'll say this, guys, it is the greatest opportunity we can ever have in terms of getting, and I think it's called machine learning. Is that it?
Machine learning, yeah.
Yeah, is that machine learning? I got it right.
Of course you did.
And that's when all of a sudden it just takes off and starts doing its own thing. Now, here's the difference and why it's important that we win this race. Because what we bring as a nation is something called morality. Remember those 4 tenets I talked about? Faith, family, free market, education. What is the single thread that goes through every single one of those tenets that's make us who we are? Morality. We want to treat people right. We want to have a family that loves each other and learn about unconditional love. We want to have a business that allows us to go out and build our dreams and then give back. And it starts off with we have a belief in God. So because we have that and we're fighting to hold on to this morality base, we have to be the ones that lead out in this particular technology. Because we want to make sure it's done the right way. We want to make sure it's not taken advantage of or all the things that could happen if the bad people like China, you put this in the hands of communists, and it is the most devious things you can think of will end up happening. So it's important that we allow this innovation, this way of thinking, this dream power that we have as a country to actually lead out on this. And that being said, I know Utah wants to be one of those leaders. We want to be able to make sure we can innovate and do certain things. And I know there was an attempt to some kind of tamper down the state's abilities to go out and innovate in this area, and I believe we got past that with the One Big Beautiful Bill. But I am excited about what it gives us. I'm excited about the fact that you will be able to, based on who you are, let me just say this. The biggest question that comes out of when people go through and get their degrees is, now I've got my degree, what I want to do? Or I'm going to go to 4-year college so I can find myself. Well, how about if you can find yourself if you're 6th or 7th grade, kind of know what your interests is, you know what you want to thrive toward. You know, this is where I don't mind putting my time and effort into. So that's the upside of AI, and I look forward to us kind of navigating this to make sure we get there. The other part, second question was accreditation. Okay. I'm so glad we finally got our hands around this one. Because see, this woke thing that we're going through, there's an ideology that I want to ask you guys this. Ask you guys this. What would you think if you were to, I walked in this room, I sat here in this chair, and just because of who I am, my color, you said, I'm not as smart as you are. Would you think that would be racist? Yeah? Okay, I think everybody will agree with that. That's where we were heading. We were getting our country back to where we would look at somebody and say, you know what, because of your skin color, you're disadvantaged. You're going to be abused and whatever it is. That's not who we are. We are the people that sees, we make a judgment based on what we offer. So accreditation, we have accreditors that are actually going in that direction. They were actually demanding that certain colleges would do certain things. DEI was one of them. DEI, by the way, is as racist as it gets. DEI, I just want you guys to know this. I went through this when I was in college. I went through this when I was in high school, and so is affirmative action. When you start looking at people say, you know what, just because of your color, you're not as smart as the rest of us. Notice that affirmative action, DEI, does not show up in sports. What shows up in sports? Merit. If you can run faster, shoot straighter, run harder, you get the job, no matter what the color is. But DEI and affirmative action brings color into it. You look at me and say, well, you know what, because of your background, I'm going to give you a 10-yard head start because you just cannot be as intelligent as the rest of us. I don't know about you guys, but I think that is an insult. It's an insult not only to me, but my parents, anybody who actually worked hard to make sure that we can be part of the American way and be respected because we're here doing our very best to be our very best. So accreditation, it's called an ACE bill that I put through that makes it so that accreditors who kind of lets colleges know what how they stand and what can be. Do you know how to define accreditors? Anyway, I know they oversee the way that your grades are looked at and you're progressing, moving forward. And what they were doing is they're putting a lot of stuff in there that should not have been put in. So we're going to make sure it's all about education, about merit, and not the other stuff that was being brought into this accreditation process. Okay?
Thank you, Representative Owens.
Okay.
With this, we're going to bring a close to our live stream. Thank the live stream audience for being here. We have events coming up in September and November, and maybe others being finalized, so watch for those. And thank you for joining us.